Okay, so it's 30, so we start. Thank you very much first to Software Crafters Barcelona. These are all companies involved, and let's start talk. So this is based on a true story. Maria, she's a product designer, she's fan of skate, she loves the matcha, also she loves photography. She has like 1,000 followers on Dribble, and every time that a log comes up on Twitter, she always has to opinion on it. Marina, she's a front-end developer. She's fan of Visual Studio Code and mechanical capers. Her cat is called DevTools, and she also has a bunch of open source projects on GitHub. They both work together in the same company, and they got a new project, and they have to redesign an international travel blog. Okay, and there's some client requirements for this redesign that I'm going to explain you. It has to be like very visual, a lot of images, very dynamic, because the main people that is going to use it are young people. So also it has a very big technical feature that we have to have in mind when doing this project, that is made on WordPress. So Irina will have to develop it on WordPress, this redesign. So they work in a consultancy, they work in a cascade mode, and Maria is the first one to start this project, and she just meet up with the client, she works on the design, and one that she got all the information from the client, she has worked on this for a few months, she got this design for the project, okay? So we see it's very fancy, there is all these animations or transitions between pages, all these things in the hero image that is very cool and it meets all the requirements that the client wants, right? So the client's actually very happy with this redesign. We only have to do like the difficult part, that is actually to put it live, because this is only a concept, right? So it's time of filling a development, and this is the result after a lot of work and a couple of months of working on WordPress. This is what we got. Oops. This was a 3G connection. So as we see, all the parallax effect is working, but on the loading time is a bit difficult. And then, well, it takes time, but the transition between images has nothing to do. And so what happened? Because they are both very good professionals, and it's just not what the client was expected to have. So the first thing is that the parallax effect and images on the first load. In the left, we can see the design, and the right, we can see the development. And it's totally different because, well, in the design it's super smooth, and then in the development just taking a very long time to load, and it's just not as fluid as it should be, right? And the reason is just this, is because, well, we are loading 1 megabyte or images only for the first part. There's the parallax effect, because to do this parallax effect you just need 3 images over on top of them, on top of each other, and then we have more images here that is just the rest of the images in the page. And even though these images are minified, well, this is still, as we see here, 2 megabytes of images. That's a lot of images, and a connection of 3 years we were seeing before, that's just bad for performance mostly. So also we have an inconsistency between design and development. Well, it's not always like this, just it's the worst part or the worst example ever. And first we see in the top the design that has margins and paddings that are not meeting in the development. And Irina is like, well, you just give me the files of a sketch or through Zeppelin or through the sketch file, and it's not my fault. Well, I'm not a designer. And Maria is like, well, you should just take care of also the details because this means a lot. I was putting a lot of effort for it. So it's just kind of like a battle. And then we have the last thing, that is the page transition, that is just totally bad, like has nothing to do. If we see the design on the left, is totally different from the development. And just Maria is like, why the hell has nothing to do? Why am I spending hours designing this if then in the development it's just totally different? Well, there has an explanation that Irina says that, well, this is a project made on WordPress, as we said before, and WordPress is just static files that is a static website that you cannot keep alive and images as Maria wants to do on the design. For that, you just will need a single page application. And the thing is that you can actually create a single page application for WordPress using the REST API of WordPress and then just building an entire single page application on top of it. But we have other limitations in our everyday work, right? And these limitations are time and cost. And if this project was based on WordPress and there was not a single page application proposed from the first time, then why we are in this problem? Time and cost says that we cannot do a single page application afterwards, and this would have been already resolved on the design. So the outcome says that, well, the client was expecting a work that is finally not done, or not as everyone was expecting to be, because the development couldn't do it as the design was made. But where's the problem? Is Irina's problem or Maria's problem? Well, actually, it's not their fault. The problem is here, is on the distance, and not on the physical distance. It's mostly on, well, the barriers of technology and the barriers of how the industry is working at the moment. Because there is no communication between these departments, we say that they are working at consultancy and they are in different departments, and this will have discussed all these problems. And I guess you have been in this situation before, and I think most of the companies are dealing with these problems nowadays. And I say this is based on a true story because it is. Well, it happened to me. So I started working as we'll see afterwards, I started working as a designer, and then this happened to me. So I'm going to explain you my story. So we have to go back 6 years ago. When I started working as a designer in this company. It's called Fast Monkeys. That's why we have bananas on our hands, because we are Fast Monkeys, right? And it was based on Helsinki. It was a small company, so that means that, well, I was the only designer. There was 2 other front-end developers, and we had. It was very easy to communicate, only because, well, it was a small place. It was a small place where we were working together, and that just make everything very easy. We didn't have many projects, So we actually have a very good relationship and communication and learning from each other. But then I moved to Microsoft in Helsinki as well, at Keilaniemi Island. And Microsoft is just, I didn't know this, but I learned that is 38,000 meters. So imagine, it's just huge there. And 5,000 people working there. So actually they had Keilaniemi Island for themselves. This was huge because, well, it's kind of like a city. Everyone's just working in different departments, that all the departments are like, each floor is a separate department. So like the relationship between people in there is just, and between people from other departments just almost doesn't exist, right? I was there, I was very young, as you see. And well, at the time I was like very frustrated because I was on the design team. It was also, they have a very bad gender equality there. We were only 3 people out of 80 in the Helsinki office in 2014. So you can see that it was a bit weird. But the thing is that each floor was a different department, and I was there designing, but then I was dealing with all these problems with front end because we couldn't communicate, we were not talking the same language. I didn't know what was going on. Then is when I decided, okay, so I want to communicate with these people, then if I want to do it, I have to learn front end somehow, because there is so many technical things that I don't understand, and I should be like able of communicating, at least if I want to work on development, on design. So I start learning front end, and well, I like it. I like it very much. This was like 5 years ago when I started learning front end, and there was this moment when you start learning something that well, you are getting better at that. I was actually working as front-end developer as well as UX designer. And then it reached a moment when I was like this, like in a Black Mirror film, when I had to decide like, okay, I have to go to design or front-end, and I'm in the middle of both. I'm finally taking the last one. So it was kind of like a nightmare, okay, because like the industry, I was feeling like the industry was just making me to do a choice between both of them. So trying to escape from this nightmare, I was just trying to find an answer, trying to find a role where I could just do both, right? So I found this role called UX engineer. And I guess you right now are like this, like, oh my God, what is this? We didn't have enough with knowing the difference between a UI or an UX designer, and now Marina comes to tell us about UX engineer, like, what the fuck? Okay, it's true, it's just, everything is complicated. I'm going to try to explain to you what it is, but you are not the only one who feel like that. Right now, Maria, our designer, she's like, oh my God, don't tell me that I'm going to I'm going to have to learn how to code. I was really bad at maths all my life. And we know this is not about maths or anything like that, just she doesn't know what's going on in the web development, right? And Irina is like, oh my God, don't tell me I have to learn how to design because, well, I'm not creative at all. And we know you don't have to be a painter to be a product designer, right? I'm actually very bad at painting or drawing. Anyways, it's just they don't know both words, and that's why they're kind of like scared of each other, right? And Maria and Irina are right now in this kind of like schema of how the UX team works. Okay, so we have first all the part of investigation or research, then the synthesis and ideation, then visual design prototyping, and that all confirms a concept. So that's where the concept is created. And then we have the markup, styling, data management. That's the front-end development, or it will be the implementation of a concept that has been done before, right? And as a product designer, Maria is just working on the concept, and Irina is working on the implementation. And then we have Marina, that is just a mix of Maria and Irina, right? And sorry for that. That's my name. I'm Marina, and I had to do just the joke because of it. So the UX engineer position will be, as you see, between those roles. And the most important part of this role is that it's actually like between the concept and the implementation, and it's just bringing together those both worlds. And that's the most characteristic part of this role. As you have seen, like I just put the bar is just going a bit to the right or to the left. It just depends on the person, because there are some UX engineers that have a bigger background on design and other UX engineers that just have a bigger background on development. It's just wherever you start or wherever your education came from, right? But this is not the only roles that we see in a UX team. So we see as well, like there are more specific roles that they only focus on one thing. For example, UX researcher, UX designer, UI designer, CSS developer that will be only markup and styling, and JavaScript engineer that will take only the data management, right? So actually, we see that there are like roles in the team that are very specific. They are very focused on one thing. And then we have other roles as product designer that's more generalistic, and other roles as UX engineer, they just taking more of a file. But some people could say as well, like, okay, but UX engineer is too big, and it's trying to take so many things. But as we see here, it's actually not that big, because product designer is taking already 3 roles on a more focused roles, right? So this means that, you don't have to be afraid of this. There is always time to learn more, and the good thing is just to have in the team generalistic roles and more focused roles or specialized roles, right? Okay? And how we can get all these roles, because they're very different people and very different backgrounds. And this is the nice thing, because if you have a lot of product designers or a lot of UI designers, the things how they are going to work is going to be very similar, and we want to just have a bigger image of the product and a more like diversity view, right? How can we get all these people to work together? That's the difficult part, because that's a lot of people. And we can do it through agile. So agile methodologies, actually what they do is just taking a whole team based on a product. So instead of just taking departments and give them tasks to do, as for example in consultancy on other companies' work, so agile methodology, they just take care of like 7-8 people. They are focused on a product, and this means that they are multidisciplinary teams, right? And this is how I used to work at Holaluz. I say that because I started working at IBM last week, so I don't work anymore at Holaluz. But well, I spent 2 years, the last 2 years, working at Pathology, and I'm going to explain you how it works. A UX engineer position works there. Pathology is a very nice company, as you see. I haven't presented actually. Sorry for me. I was just okay. I'm in Barcelona. Everyone knows Pathology, but it's not true. Pathology is an energy company provider. So we provide green energy to Spain. We connect people to green energy. That's their slogan. And it's a very nice company. It's very feminist, has a lot of inclusion policies. And one example, as you can see, we have a nursery for children. So all the work-life balance is very important for the company. Yeah, this is a very good place to go if you want. They are looking for UX engineers, actually. So I'm going to explain you one of the projects at Pathology. This is it's a dashboard where you can we have commercials that they're selling light and electricity and gas for us, and they just need a dashboard to manage a whole project to actually manage all their contracts. And this is a project that I'm going to explain you as an example of how UX engineers works in a project like that. So this is the structure of a UX team in this commercial or sales management application that I show you. And we start with the part of investigation that is actually done by the product owner, Sylvia. This is a special case because, Sylvia was a salesperson before, so she actually knows all the people all the clients of this application, and she can communicate with them very well. And that's why she was doing the part of investigation, and Marina is me. I was working with her to help her to just collect all the data. And then I was working on the synthesis and visual design. So I was in the whole thing, in the whole part of concept. But the important part is that I was also working on the implementation. So I was making sure that all the concept that was designed was going to work in the implementation. It was going to be well implemented, right? And then we have two front-end developers, Ana and Adrià, that actually Adrià is also here. He's not seeing this talk because he has already seen it, but he's at the conference. You can see him afterwards. And if you see this chart, you can think, wow, but there is 3 people working in the implementation, and then there is only 2 people working in the concept. Seems not very balanced, right? And the thing is that this is only because timing. So we have to build a single-page application from scratch, and we just need more people working on the implementation if we want to balance the concept and implementation times. That's the only reason. This is the tools that Pathology use. So the first thing is not Tinder in the investigation. I know you think about it. It's actually called Hotjar, and it's just a tool to see how our clients were working with the app that we were creating, right? And then we had Sketch. It's just one of the most used tools, UI tools, for the synthesis and visual design, prototyping, and then we use Vue in the whole implementation. As we were seeing before, I was from here, from the investigation to the markup and styling, so I was making sure that everything made on Sketch was actually well implemented on Vue, and all the work done on the design was actually worth it, right? But the most important part here is that we had a design system that is between the concept and the implementation, because design systems are this. So a lot of people think that design system is just part of or should be responsibility of the design team, and it's actually not, because it goes to the implementation. Front-end team had to work with it, they have to develop it, and many times in this separation is where problems comes up, because there's inconsistencies. I'm going to explain you one example of this all-a-loop design system, and it's as simple or as complex as a component that is a button. Okay, so this is the button component and other design system, and as you see, well, it has, this is all the different types, or how it can show a component in different states, and so a button. So we have first the primary button, then secondary, gradient, and no background. Okay, so the first state is the normal state. Then we have the all check over inactive that looks like this. Then we have the disable, and then we have the loading state. That loading state, remember, that's very important. Many times in the design system, we don't see all the asynchronous states, as for example in buttons, and I think it's very important to also design it and to implement it, because many times you have to show feedback to the user that something is loading, and well, we forget about these things sometimes. So this is how I told you we are using Vue. So this is how we are just creating a gradient button. As you see, this is super simple. I'm going to explain you why we are using props afterwards. But as you see, we just put the component name, and then a prop of category with a gradient, and then we just create a button with a gradient. So it seems super simple. Designers can also understand it. And the thing is that to make it easier for everyone. This is how a button with an icon is made. As you see, we have another component inside, it's just icon base, and then we just display in the icon. And then we have, for example, a button that has only an icon but no text, and it's also rounded. As you see, rounded is just a prop that is Boolean, so if we are putting the rounded part there, it's just saying that it is rounded, it's true, so it works. It's just the whole thing is very declarative, and that's what we want to achieve. Then we have a button, for example, of category no background, that this means that it has no background, and it could look like a link, so it's actually a link, and we just put the tag A to make it a link. Then we also have a text and icon. And this is a quick example of how it's made on Vue. So what we do is just showing the component here. Then we are just creating a computer class called getClasses that is just connecting the CSS classes with the props that we have on the top defined. So these are all the props. And on the computed class, computed property is just connecting the CSS classes with the prop. And that's how it was possible to make what we have seen before. And then we just have the CSS. So this is all the declaratives for the CSS made. And combining these classes through props is how we create this component. I'm going to show you how this component works on a Storybook. Well, you know what a Storybook is. Have you ever heard of it? Okay. So a Storybook is just a way of, a tool of just getting components, like an abstraction of components where you can test their UI. So, for example, this is an example of this component that we have there, and we can just test it in a live environment. So it's like bringing the design alive, which is very cool because the design we have seen it before is just paper. So it's actually just a concept, but if it's not implemented well, just worthless, right? So in Storybook, we can test that all the states designed are actually well done. And we can start. As you see, this is a real element. And we can just change the categories through props. And we see that the visual part changed, which is very cool to test all these things, okay? And instead of click me, we can say hello everyone, for example. We can make it a loading state, so it will show this loader. We can say that, okay, we just want an icon here, maybe a bulb icon. And the cool thing is that also the icon color changes with depends on the parent, so you have to change the color of the SVG. Here I'm just changing all the height and different size of this icon, and I'm just showing you how it's possible to make all this concept alive through view and test it out, right? The disable is on gray because we want to have the contrast ratio of 4.5 to just meet the accessibility. And well, I told you I'm not working anymore at Hola because right now I just start working at IBM as a UX engineer. I just been working for 1 month. One week. I wish 1 month, but not 1 week only. So I cannot really tell anything about IBM yet. That's why I explained you about the last 2 years I spent at Hola Luz. But Hola Luz and IBM are not the only companies that have UX engineers. So actually the main company that maybe the one that made this role popular is Google. So Google is showing here. This is just a job screenshot of Google that shows that the UX engineers, well, it's a synthesis between design and development, and how these UX teams include designers, researchers, developers, and UX engineers. And the main things that they want to focus on: quality, usability, and performance. This is what I explained you before, but I'm just giving some examples of other companies that are working like this. Spotify in Stockholm, Sweden, also has this role of UX engineer, but it's called design systems engineer, because we have seen that a design system is just a way of bringing together the concept and the implementation, and that's why they have a role called like that. It's very new role in the market, so it means that the name is mostly all the time just changing as every name on the market changes, but this is like more unstable, let's say that. So it's not called UX engineer, it's called design system engineer, but as we see, the description is just totally the same because, well, it speaks about the nexus of design and development, and just to improve web practices, accessibility, usability, and quality of the code, right? I had the pleasure of actually interviewing some UX engineers that I know, I follow on Twitter, and I admire. One of them is Adam Agile. He's a UX engineer at Google Chrome at Seattle. And he told me that actually for him, UX engineer is kind of like closer to service design because of this end-to-end journey in the work. because since you're working, we are working at this design and development, then you have a bigger view of the whole project, and that's why it seems closer to service design for him. Cristina Chumillas, she's a UX engineer at Drupal here in Barcelona, and she does a reflection or that we should not believe too much in the current jobs levels or distributions, because it changes a lot. It's very unstable, and it has the actual job levels that we have are not the same as what we have 10 years ago, and they're not going to be the same in 10 years from now. Carmen Dancio, she's a UX engineer at Tindeo, is just doing another thought on how enriching is to have a diverse work environment, of a social diverse work environment, and we should also take care of the technical environment. So have a diverse technical environment, just make nice teams, and we'll see afterwards. But why can we have multidisciplinary profiles as well? This is a very nice question. And Emma Wadekins is a design system at LogMeIn in Germany. We have seen that design systems and UX engineers very similar. And she's just doing another reflection of like how impossible it's just actually for her just to work on a design and development that is totally separate. And because it feels very natural to work together, and though like roles of UX engineers just going to make like all the products more cohesive and consistent. But that's not only like the UX engineers I know. There's actually a bunch of them. I follow Sarah Drosner, that she works at Amplify. There's a lot of people from Google. There is GitLab, Cabify, Salesforce, and this is becoming a very popular role. I hope it also increase of number of people, because it's actually making a lot of difference in the industry. And you are right now like, what you have said, Marina, is very cool. I really want to become a UX engineer because I always like design and development, but how, right? And this is a very good question, because I actually had an email last year from a Polish guy that he was in a company in Poland, and he said that he started as a front-end developer, but he wanted to just move to the design part, and he wanted my advice of how to make this change, or actually like how to work in both sides. And my response was, first thing that you have to find is a company that allows you to grow. This guy was in a company where actually it was only providing front-end or a software development to other companies. So that means that he couldn't work on design on those products. And I told him like, you maybe to move to another company, for example, a product company, where you can actually have the chance on working on both sides. Because a company that allows you to grow and also believes on your growth is very important. We all have to learn all the time, but if you want to keep in track of all the changes in the front-end wall and design, this time is like you really have to do it all the time, like learning. But I find it very interesting. I like both topics, and I think it's very nice to be learning all the time. I like to keep updates of everything that's happening in both worlds, and it's something that you really have to like to do. And the most important part, not maybe the most important, but very important, is that don't let other professionals project their limitations on you, because well, everyone is different. It's not the same learning how to code today than 10 years ago, and we should not speak for other people, and just the person that you are the one that really knows you, and you should believe in yourself. Don't other people tell you like, oh well, or even industries, because there are some companies that they just believe in industries and how they work, and then they're just following paths, and we should not do that, right? So we have to learn from other roles, and that's what as a UX engineer have to do. Well, you start as design and then you move to front end, or vice versa. And then, well, this is something that I really like when I move from design to front end. I start learning other things from front end that I would like to be implemented on design. And one thing is version control, because I'm very tired of like opening a sketch file or a Figma file. That actually Figma is a bit better on this because it has a history control, but still is not the same as version control that we have on development. So I wish we will have this, because it will be very cool to keep in track of all things and like actually working better, because right now design is very behind of this. We don't have like a GitHub or GitLab, or well, Git in general. And I wish this could become true for design as well. Pair programming. Okay, in this case will be pair designing, but it's something very normal on the development side, and it's not very normal on the design. And I wish this could be a reality as well. Testing. Imagine if you could just test in a sketch file that, I don't know, the colors that you are using are the same ones that the company has as the palette, or the margins are like a multiple of 8, for example. That would be so cool, and that will make all our designs very well done, and we will be totally sure that they are like the way we want. And right now we don't have any way of testing inside design tools, so it's something that I would like to have from the development side. Open source. There is a lot of open source on the development side, but design seems like very empty in this case, and it will be so nice to have as well, like, or at least working together and try to improve those open source projects that are made on the development sides from the design. Some conclusions. I just want to say that the mixed profiles don't go against specialization. And when I say mixed profiles, more like generic profiles. The only thing that goes against specialization is just, well, don't want to learn anymore and think like, this is my space of learning, I only know design, I'm not going to learn development, and that's the only thing that goes against specialization. More diversity. When we speak about diversity, it's mostly, sadly, about only women in tech, but we should speak about social diversity in general, and we should also speak about technical diversity, like diversity in teams, in what everyone knows and how they can contribute to the team, because this just make better teams. Whenever we have like more diversity, people working there, like the ideas are different, and this It's very nice. And the most important thing, do what you love. This is so easy, right? So if you don't like design, don't do design. If you just like JavaScript, just be a JavaScript engineer. It's very easy. So do what you love. If you want to be in a more generic part of the team, be a UX engineer, for example. If not, be just whatever other roles we have seen before. And now what? Because you will be like, oh, this talk is so cool, but what should I do now? Like, I want to start learning from other team members. And okay, so I think it's very easy to do. Just go to that person that you have in your company that you know something about what they're doing, but you would like to know more, and just tell them, okay, so can I sit with you for a week to just work with you, like a pair programming? Even though you are doing very different things, you can learn a lot from that person. So this is a very action that you can take now. Well, now no, because it's a Sunday, but tomorrow, and it's very easy, and it can actually lead you to discover things that you like. So that's all. I'm Marina Aisa at Twitter, and I would like to know if you have any question about this topic you want to ask me. Thank you very much. So do you have any question? Okay.
Sí, ¿se oye? Sí. So thanks, Marina, for your talk. It was inspiring, at least for me. I doesn't come from a from a design or a front end side. I come from the back end, but I'm trying to move forward this UX engineering role.
Okay.
So as you have tips, or do you have any tips or advices to give to people going that way?
From backend work.
Yes.
I will say that maybe for you it's easier to start, like, don't try to jump from design in the first place. I will say that it's better to just follow the line of, like, maybe from backend you should move to front end, and then once you are comfortable with it, then move to design. Because if you try to jump from one place to another, it can be a bit difficult, I think. That will be one of my advice. And just read a lot of books. I think I found a lot of information on them. Work with people that you think that they are good professionals, and they can explain things to you. Because also, like, sharing information, not everyone is good at that. And yeah, I will tell you, like, start from front end and then move to design, because just more similar of what you already know, and it's not that different, so just easier to take.
Thank you.
No more questions? Okay.